Welcome back, everyone. Next up, we have Power Nickel. It trades on the OTCQB under the symbol CMETF and on the TSXV under the symbol PNPN. It's a Canadian junior exploration company focusing on high potential copper, gold, and battery metal prospects in Canada and Chile. Please welcome its CEO, Terry Lynch. Hi, Terry. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, and thanks for having us. We're happy to be here today. We're at an interesting juncture in the market, obviously, with a lot of people fearful because of the market flight to liquidity that's happened in the last little while. But often in these scary times are the best times to be an investor. And I think if you're an investor out there with capital to invest, couldn't actually be looking at a better time. And I think you'll find some gems here that can really transform your life. And I think Power Nickel is going to be one of them. And I'm happy to tell you the Power Nickel story. It's a great one. So interesting, looking at the screen, it's not a work of art, obviously, on the front page, but it's got a pretty interesting background. So the slides, the core that you see in front of there, you'll see in the back, bottom row, it's very dark. Well, that's the periodite rock that is carrying the nickel grade. So what's interesting about that is when we're drilling, we actually know when we're in the zone. And that's really rare in mining. In my experience, I've typically been, drilling for copper and gold. And sometimes you get visible gold and slashes of copper and stuff. It helps. But you never really know if you're in the zone or what the grades are going to look like. But in this case, it's quite interesting. We actually know we're in the zone. So when we did our last exploration program, which was in, November, December of this year, we drilled 8 holes. One hole had a fault and we stopped drilling. The other 7 hit the pay dirt and we had really great results. And we knew we were going to have good results. We just didn't know exactly how good because obviously we didn't have the assays, but we knew we were in the zone. We had great thickness. So that was encouraging. I find that's a sort of a plus. To the left of the core, you'll see what it looks like in northern Quebec. And it's just like what you might expect, sort of muskeg and rocky and a little bit of snow. And to the right, to the ATCO trailers there in the background, if you look really deeply, you'll see this industrial complex. And what that is a major Hydro-Quebec substation. So we're literally across from a major Hydro-Quebec substation. So that's positive for a number of reasons. One is cheap electricity to power your mine, which will make it very super to electrify our mine and make it probably the lowest carbon nickel mine in the world. And that's obviously in this world a very good thing. The other thing is obviously just the infrastructure, roads, conditions, etc., to facilitate that complex are in place right across from our potential mine site, which means we're going to be able to very easily commercialize our mine. So those are a couple things to start off the show. Standard disclaimer, we're not going to tell you anything we don't believe is true, but as always, it's always pays attention to do your own due diligence. Why invest now? I think the biggest reason to invest now is we're trading at a deep discount to our comparables, and we'll walk you through that. I think in addition to trading at a deep discount, that wouldn't matter much if it's going to stay for the next 5 years because who would care? But it's actually going to change. The commodity bull market is here, and this market's about ready to rip, and there's going to be some very big wins, and we'll walk you through that, and we think we're going to be one of them. We're in probably, I can't think of a better mining complex to be in than the nickel complex. So we're not just nickel, but we have copper, cobalt, and palladium. So we're polymetallic. And I just like the futures curve on those metals. It really is awesome. There's a meme going around, nickel is the new gold, and we certainly believe in that. Nickel is going to be powering the next generation of electric vehicles in an even bigger way than it already is. And, it just the nickel, especially class 1 nickel, which is what we'll have, is going to be very, very attractive to be in. In addition to our nickel story, we were a gold and copper explorer before we found Nisk, and I'll go into the background of the Nisk story in a second. But we'll be spinning that out. Our current valuation where we're at today, which is around, 13 million or so. We were north of that with our copper gold projects. And then we made Nisk, and then we went all the way up to probably 50 million. And then, over time, even though the market sort of been beaten back, even though we've had extremely attractive drill results, and nickel has tripled. So how that works out, I don't know, but that will change. And the reason why it will change is that we're about to launch a new 43101. So we'll go from having a historic resource, which may sort of scare a few people. We understand that, but we think after the drill program, people should be less fearful, knowing that the drill program basically substantiated what was in the old 43101. And this new one will come out. We'd hope to have it out by now, but everything takes a bit longer these days in the mining industry. So we're expecting it out before the end of Q2, and we think it's going to be a very positive, report. And then at the same time, we're about to start another drill program that's fully funded, and it will start in late Q2 as well, mid-June. So that's exciting stuff to look forward to as an investor. I mentioned at the outset that we felt that we were very trading at undervalued relative to our peer group, and I just move that slide up a little bit. Okay, there we go. It's probably hard to see it on your screen. I'm not sure if you can see it, but generally what it shows is of the 5 nickel sulfide, I would say, companies on the TSXV that are in the nickel sulfide discovery business, the high grade nickel sulfate, that's significantly different than, say, like I want to say Giga Metals or Canada Nickel, who are in what I would say the low grade nickel sulfate business. The primary difference is these projects will take probably a couple $100 million to develop, whereas the other ones will be over $1 billion. So it's a significant economic difference. So Talon Metals, as an example, is sort of the poster child for what you want to be when we grow up. And they, their deposit is around 750 million. It's got as high as over $1 billion here in the last few months. And it basically, they've got about 11 million tons of about 2.1% nickel EQ. By comparisons, we have about, using the same math, the historic resource of 3 million tons at about 1.6% nickel EQ. So when you do the math and figure out, okay, what are we paying per nickel in the ground? We're getting 14 cents for the nickel we've discovered. Talon Metals is getting $1.40. So, and if you look at the other ones down the chain, we're cheaper, I would argue that we've got the best potential deposit. So the others are 18 and 24. So anyway, to look at it, we're super cheap, and we don't need to be. We should be a lot more expensive. We should be tending to push towards, I think, after this next round of results comes out and the report gets out, we're going to start to get paid Talon Metals money for our nickel, and we're going to find a bunch more of it. So that's important to note. I like to show these two slides to people just to sort of say, what can a commodity bull market look like to me as a retail investor? And the interesting thing is, on the chart on the left, that's the TSXV overlaid over the S&P. So in the last bull market, I would say in mining was 2006 to 2008, and you saw a ratio of 2.5 to 3 there. Right now we're at 0.25. So in other words, we're taking like a 10-fold surge to get back to like a bull market. So you're going to see a lot of 10-baggers in mining and 100-baggers, and frankly, I believe we're going to be one of them. And I think that's, when you're in this scary market condition, you want to start to look at those ones that can really transform you and that have the capital to move and advance the things forward, and we do. This other slide on the right is interesting, and it sort of basically shows you when to buy and sell tech and commodities. And if you look at the chart right now, it's clearly saying buy commodities, sell tech, and obviously you're seeing that happening in the market. The other thing we think will be helpful for us is that I've long been an advocate against predatory short selling. And I've been working with some very good people on a program called Save Canadian Mining. Eric Sprott's been a very big benefactor of ours. Sean Roos and Keith Neumeyer, some of these guys are legends in the mining industry, and they see this as a problem. The reason why they see it as a problem is if you look at the chart on the bottom left, this is basically a chart of the TSXV Metals and Mining Index, versus the commodity price index. If you think of it, mining should sort of mirror commodities. We're basically a commodity business. So we won't trade much above or below commodities for a long period of time. Typically we trade a little bit above, but hey, somewhere in there. Right now we're trading at 35% to an index of around 93. So So we'd almost have to triple to get back to normal. So that's across the board, all mining stocks. Why is that happening? Well, one of the reasons it's happening is for sure the predatory short sellers. So we've seen it in our own stock in the last, when we announced our results, stocks ran up to 30 cents, should have broken through and gone through to 50 in my view and beyond. And then they pounded us back. And we think there's a huge short position on Power Nickel right now. And we're thinking that's why I called the warrants to raise our own capital, not dilute it. They send their henchmen in to sort of finance you at these levels. And I said, no, why would I do that? You know, we did our financing at 25 cents and 40 cents last May, and we executed. We hit the ball in the park with the expiration. Nickel's tripled, and now we're worth less. Makes no sense. That's just a rigged game. We're not going to play that game. So that's when we called our warrants, got our cash in. We're going to go another round of drilling, and we'll see how the screw tightens on these guys. Nisk was a game changer for us. We were going to move along with we're very happy with our gold copper complex, and we'll talk more about that later. And then a friend came to me and he said, Terry, I know you're involved in Critical Elements, which is the company that had owned Nisk. And he says, do you know about this Nisk project? And I said, no, I do not know about it. And he went on to tell me the details. And I said, well, that sounds interesting. He says, you should buy it. And I said, well, how does that work? I said, we're in copper gold. He says, yeah, but you're in the money-making business and you can buy this and it can become a mine. And it's, relatively low risk relative to your exploration place. And I looked at it and I had to say, you know what, he was right. So I listened to his advice. Thank you, Mr. Mueller from Parallax JS. Thank you so much, Jeff. And we ended up buying this project. And, we were able to do it, even as a small company because they took shares. So they're betting on the project too. So Critical Elements has made a wise decision to take, a significant ownership position in our company and retained a small piece in the mine. And they needed it to get it off its balance books and get it out there and being developed. So we basically allowed that to happen for them. So the project we acquired initially, the 3.1 million tons, generally speaking, about 1% nickel, about 0.5% copper, and about 0.07 or so cobalt, and about 1.1 grams of palladium, and 0.3 or so of platinum. So a very interesting polymetallic split. And as I said, we feel that the move to nickel from gold for us was simple. We just felt nickel's dynamics were better. It's less manipulable, if that's a word. But I think the gold and silver markets are managed by the central banks. Nickel is basically much less managed. I mean, generally speaking, we saw what happened with the London exchange, where, a short squeeze and drove nickel up to 21 bucks a pound. And now it's 12. When we bought this thing, it was less than 5. So, but the supply dynamics for nickel are outstanding. The reason why is, in addition, nickel is driven by two things. Basically, it's driven by urbanization, and that's basically, as the world becomes more urbanized, as India, Africa, China, South America become more urbanized, they're buying more fridges and stoves, more pots and pans, and they're using stainless steel. So stainless steel is the single biggest consumer of nickel. And stainless steel can consume all types of nickel. There's really three types of nickel. There's class 1 nickel, which is 99.8% pure. There's everything else that's new nickel, and then there's recycled nickel. So stainless steel can use it all. Electric vehicles can only use class 1 nickel at this stage because it's too costly to purify the nickel to make it usable for the batteries. And, nickel used to be sort of about a third of a battery. They're expecting it to go to 80%. I think, Mr. Musk, he what was his quote? I think it's, please mine more nickel. So, I mean, I think that's where we're at. The nickel demand is rising, and the supply of the class 1 nickel is going down because there's really not been a lot of new discoveries. So I think we're having some interesting conversations, even at these early stages, with strategic partners that are looking for, to get control of nickel deposits. So I think that's one of the things, the shorters are forgetting is that we don't have to necessarily finance in the market. There could be some surprises coming on that front. We think that nickel is going to continue to look strong going forward. And the rest of our complex, the copper, cobalt, palladium, again, is also looking amazingly strong. When we looked at the project, the thing that excited us a lot was that we felt that, there was tremendous historical nickel results. These are sort of 0.5 to 1.5% nickel. The what I call the EQ, the equivalency, when you convert the cobalt, the copper, and the palladium, it almost doubles it. So it's a very, great ore body to have. And the interesting thing is these ore bodies historically around the world don't come as onesies. And yet we're right now exploring, if you look at this map, Nisk Main has been our sole focus at this point in time. There has been a little bit of work done in Nisk West, and there's some other interesting geological targets. And typically, these nickel sulfate deposits come what they call is sort of a string of pearls, and they basically, in addition to having like a one main deposit, they'll have several other ancillary deposits. So we don't know if we found the main deposit. We've got one really good deposit in Nisk Main, but we think there's going to be several. And so we're thinking this is going to look more like Lynn Lake or Voisey's Bay and end up in sort of the 20 to 50 million ton range. I mean, that's aggressive, but this is what we think, given what we're seeing right now. The deposit is open at depth and along strike. You can see here on our next, this little cross in here, this little 1 kilometer area that my cursor is sort of circling is basically where all the action has been to date. We think that little chunk there can get to 10 million tons. That would make us commercial, okay? We think there's going to be a number of these. So that's the potential. And yet here we are trading at 13 million. So, it's pretty crazy, especially when you see these were the results of the last round. Very much in line with what we found historically. So that's why we're quite bullish about what the report will show. And we're very bullish about this next stage of exploration drilling. So we're going to be drilling to our flanks on the right and left. We'll also be doing more infill drilling into the Nisk Main so we can push that resource growth even further. But we're expecting to maybe open up some new discovery zones, and that's when this thing could really go electric. So our action plan for Nisk is pretty simple. We've updated our 3D model, and we've optimized our phase 2 exploration plans, and we're rolling on that. We're going to release the updated 43-101. We expect that, as I said, at this point, I would say at late Q2. We'll start to drill up to 5,000 meters. It's fully funded, so all you shorts out there, you should be worried. You should be sweating very heavily right now. Expand the resource and test new pods. So as I said, given the nature of these deposits historically is sort of a string of pearls formation where there's multiple pods, we think we're going to find some other pods here, and that could really lead to serious resource expansion. We expect we'll release results on this in late Q3, September, October, late September, I suspect. We'll at some point we'll need additional funding, and we expect that'll happen in sort of that September zone. If the market wakes up and reacts to our resource expansion and gets back to where it should be, then obviously we'll be opportunistic. We're obviously in talks with strategic partners. That could change the game in terms of a significant investment there. But we'll definitely do some funding. For us, it's not a question of can we get the funding. We've been offered tons of money. We just don't like where we're at right now. So that's why we pressed the bet and said, okay, let's go drill another round. Let's get our resource upgrade out there and show people what we really have. Finally, what we'll end up doing, we expect, contingent on the financing coming through in the fall, we'd probably ramp up another 15,000 meter program in the fall and look to really push this into a commercial zone. And you'll note, when we did that initial, sort of talk about the comparables up front, that commercial projects are getting $1.40 a nickel in the ground. We're getting 14 cents. So obviously you're going to discover a lot more nickel, and then you're going to get paid a lot more for it. So that's why this is really a multiple bagger, I believe. And obviously, you can only sort of bet with your own money, and I have significantly. What's next beyond this? We basically have really great copper gold properties. They're somewhat lost in the nickel play right now, so we're going to spin those out. We're just looking at the right time to do that. We expect that to happen this fiscal year, probably in either Q3 or Q4. And we're working on the details on that, and we'll advise you more on that. But generally speaking, the projects are in Chile and in British Columbia. In British Columbia, they're in a very cool area called the Golden Triangle, and we're literally in the mountain overlooking the town of Stewart, and it's very interesting. We're the yellow here, and Strike Point is sort of the darker blue. Scotty Resources is the red. Ascot Resources is sort of the gray here. That's becoming a mine. So we did a sampling program last summer and discovered 2 new gold zones where we're getting over almost 1 ounce material at surface, which is crazy numbers. So very exciting gold project that ordinarily this would be a flagship for many other companies. So that's why we need to get this out into its own animal. What might that be worth? Well, as I said, historically, we traded worth more now for a copper and gold than we are currently. Strike Point's around that price, 14 million. Sky's around 40. So I expect we'll get that type of value when we spin this out. So you're basically getting something for free today. Either you're getting the copper and gold for free or the nickel for free, but it's definitely on a deep discount. In Chile, we have a number of key projects. The Chile situation, obviously, politically, they're going through some issues down there. They've got the new constitution that's going to be voted on in early September. And it looks like they're going to be reasonable and rational, and it will still be a great mining jurisdiction. It has historically been a great mining jurisdiction. We expect that to be maintained through the new constitution. But we weren't in a position with our capital structure where we had such great projects to work on in Canada to take more bets in Chile. So we've basically been holding on our Chile bet, even though we love them. We think that we've got some interesting, I would say, JV discussions going on that could happen on any of the projects down there, and that we've got some, Zulema and TDO are very attractive projects with, several thousand hectares, lots of great looking opportunities there, and we've probably spent, $20 million in Chile. So there's some value to be had there, and we're pumped about it, but we're not going to spend any more of our money until the political situation is completely clarified. One of the other benefits we have, which would surprise most people, is we have a royalty. We have a very attractive royalty in Chile on a project that we sold to Teck for $3 million and a 3% royalty. Teck, at the time when we sold it, we thought it would be part of their new mine development, QB2, but they changed their plans on the way through, and so it's not going to be part of that. We expect they'll be developing QB3, and that's what this will be part of. So at some point in time, this thing will probably kick out $6, $8, $10 million a year. Just exactly when that is, not sure, but it's probably 5+ years away. But it's not worth nothing. It's certainly a valuable thing, and we'll monetize that in the future. The management team is very lean. Just myself and Jimena are sort of being paid by the company. The rest are advisors. So we've put the money in the ground, which is what a good junior should do. And, because we're all significant shareholders. Greg McKenzie, one of our directors, is ex-managing director of Haywood, very sharp guy, very, very knowledgeable mining guy, runs another mining company in Mexico right now. Peter Kent's a very experienced lawyer, has done a great job in managing the board. Les Mallard's a very successful independent businessman in Canada. And these guys, we've been working together for several years. It's been a tough go for junior mining, but we've hung in there, and now we're about to get our rewards. The cap structure is pretty interesting. Just 91 million shares outstanding. About 105 million fully diluted. We're trading near our low. So, obviously, if you look at what we've done and the markets we're in, it seems almost unfathomable. But obviously, for you listening today, that's a great time to consider us as a part of your portfolio. So what are the reasons to invest in PNPN? Just to wrap it up. Well, we think our drill results indicate we have a major nickel sulfide discovery. We're going to have an updated 43-101, which we published in Q2. We've got a new fully funded 5,000 meter program to start end of Q2. We think our exploration modeling suggests it has great potential for expansion. We're looking for not just a 10 million ton discovery here. We're thinking 20 to 50, depending on how many pods of this string of pearls that we can find. Battery metals are hot. Obviously, I couldn't think of a better sector to be in right now. Nickel, copper, cobalt, and palladium. Nisk has it all. We think the spin-off offers excellent bonus potential. Obviously, the leadership team is well connected. That's how we're able to make these acquisitions, both in Golden Ivan and BC and in Nisk. Nickel's on fire, and the future curve looks very bullish. We're trading at a super low valuation relative to our peers. And final point, which is huge, is we have in Quebec and in BC, we have super flow-through financing, which gives us 150% tax deduction. So, for example, the last financing we did it at 25 cents in last May with a flow-through at 40, so a 60% premium. Well, that's great because it means less dilution for you shareholders. So that's those are 10 exciting reasons, I think, to invest in Power Nickel. So anyway, I'm a big believer. Happy to answer any questions anybody might have, either on the panel here today, if we have some time. If not, the contact information is on the screen. We're happy to answer questions directly. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, Terry. Great job. We've got tons of questions for you, but about 4 minutes left. So let's get started. Lindsay G asks, why do you think you are undervalued?
Well, I mean, we just went through the comparison. So I look at things at nickel in the ground. So we're obviously the lowest. So that would be just the frankness. And then I guess the other thing you look at is what is your potential on the discovery side? And given the fact that we just hit the ball in the park on the exploration, I'd say we've got great potential on the discovery side as well. So those two factors would say we're super undervalued.
And Rick Mason asks, when will you need to raise capital?
As I said in the presentation, probably late Q3. After we get our get the drill results out, and unless, of course, as I said, at some point the market's going to wake up to this story. It could happen when we release a resource report. Just don't know when this thing is going to go north, but it's going to go north in my view. And when it does, obviously we'll raise some additional capital, but we're looking north of 50. That would be my sweet spot.
And Marlon B asks, when will the spin out occur?
Q3 or Q4 is what we're targeting right now. We're obviously trying to sort of time the market a little bit to have it happen in a market where that would be welcome. Right now, junior mining, obviously look at our price, look at prices of many junior miners are very depressed. So we'd like to time that a little bit.
Lucas Moore asks, what are the terms of the funding for your next project? Is it equity or debt?
So we have no terms. There's no funding. There's nothing's been finalized. So, there's nothing to comment on in that respect. So we wouldn't be certainly taking debt on at this stage.
Okay. And Shirley Ramsey asks, what majors, if any, are producing near you?
So Glencore is north of us in Quebec, and then Vale is west of us in Sudbury.
And Marion Schultz asks, do you see potentially the reason for the stock to be trading below the index, the increased cost of production in the market? And what is your production cost going to come in at? And do you see it as a reflection of the labor market and equipment costs? Obviously with the inflation that's happening in the world, it obviously impacts commodity pricing, and it's obviously impacted construction pricing. I know I've looked at it. I'm a mining investor in addition to a mining operator. So I know many of the mining companies I've invested in, I've run simulations, and basically a 20% increase in construction costs versus a 20% increase in commodity prices tends to drive NPV up by 50% in a project. So yes, there will be construction increases, labor price increases, but if commodity prices are up by the same, there's more net present value for the project. So overall, inflation is generally good for us, across the board. Trisha Boyd asks if you can give a timeline. When is the next milestone? When will production ramp up? And how much do you need to get past these key milestones? So
next milestone will be the resource report, which will be out later in Q2. And then following that, there'll be or coincident with that, there'll be the drilling of the phase 3 drill program. So those will be the next two big ones. And then there'll be the reports back from that phase 3 drilling in the end of Q3. And then, a financing event sometime around then. And then a Q4 15,000 meter program. So those would be the big four. And then probably in Q4, the spin out as well. So a very action-packed year for Power Nickel.
Wonderful. Action-packed years are good years. So thank you
They
so
are
much
good
for your
years.
time and presentation, Terry. Please join us again in the future with your updates.
Cheers. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Everyone stay with us. We're going to transition to our next presenter. We'll be right back.